The camera's right there.
Right there, okay.
And Zoomers, can you hear us? Can you take yourself off mute for just one? Oh, they might not hear me, but.
Yeah, if you can hear, can you, acknowledge, or is there a chat on here as well?
Yeah, I can hear. This is Summer.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
We got volume. Rick's trying to talk.
Yes.
Okay, and then I want
Summer is talking.
Show up. Okay. Okay, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Thumbs up. Make sure you're unmuted. Okay, we got thumbs up. Thank you, Steve. Okay.
Okay, here's the slideshow right here.
Okay.
And you got the board.
I've got the board.
And then just
Let's have some fun.
general area.
Yeah. Come on up. Sit up close.
Can I show you guys?
Hey, Krista.
Hey, see?
How you doing?
This is my husband. Oh, it is?
Okay.
What was your name? Brett. Brett, welcome.
Okay.
Okay, you guys, a couple, hold on, I'm gonna grab a mic.
You want this?
No, we're gonna have to use this one too,
Okay. And this one's going to be very interactive, so ask questions. Like we were explaining before, estimating value is more of an artwork, not an exact science. So ask questions. You know, we'll go through this together. Go ahead.
Test. Okay, you guys, so just a couple things with Zoom. We got the Zoomers on. Jared's going to be going through the slideshow. The Zoomers can hear Jared with his mic, but they can't hear you. So either you need to repeat their question when they ask a question, or I'll leave both mics right back here and just talk into the mic. They can hear you if you're talking into the mic. Otherwise, he just needs to repeat the question, because then it makes it, like you said, more interactive for those listening. Who needs an Ignite binder? These are the original. Okay, I'll go grab you one. Do you need an Ignite binder? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll grab one for you as well. Okay, I'll grab one. So we're just going to be following along. Jared is doing price to sell with your CMA, and let me introduce Jared. Hey, how are you? Welcome. Get on up here. Okay, you guys, Jared, Rockstar agent, one of our top teams, I'm going to say in the state.
Okay.
Nation.
Okay.
He's in the, what was it, it was top 100 in the nation.
Yeah, we're number 95 right now.
Okay,
so, yeah.
So number 95, definitely top in the state. One of the top teams here at KW for sure, absolutely. And just the nicest guy, awesome rock star agent. And I'll let him tell a story, give his bio, how he got to KW, why, how, just kind of give your history and everything,
Sure.
Because that's just part of it, I think, is relating to these mega agents who come and volunteer their time to teach, is that they all started out where you guys were at one time. And that's important, I think, to connect and relate to. It just didn't happen overnight, that they went through the same, struggles and getting up and going as each of you did, and those on Zoom as well. So I'll let you share that, and then I'll grab you guys Ignite binders. But again, if you have any questions during, Ignite, don't hesitate to ask Jared. That's why he's here today. But we'll be going through the material, and it's price to sell with your CMA. It's going to be awesome. So anyway, I'll turn the time over to Jared.
All right, thank you. It's great to be here with you today. This is my first time teaching Ignite, so bear with me as I figure this all out, but I appreciate the opportunity. What a crazy time we're all going through right now. I think this is unprecedented situation for us all, especially as realtors and trying to interact with clients and with people when there's restrictions put in place on how to interact. Helping people, trying to figure out where to live through these situations. And I chose this subject. This is one that for my team, this is one that I love doing. You talk about why did we get into real estate? I love numbers. I love strategy. And so estimating values from the beginning has been one of my favorite things to do. And so I'm really excited to teach this to everyone. And I appreciate you guys being here. I watched on Monday, and there was no one actually physically present. And there was a bunch online, but I could not teach this subject with no one here. So thank you for being here. So yeah, let me tell you a little bit about myself and my background. So married back in 2004. We have 3 kids together. In 2006, I started law school at BYU. And then in 2007, we thought we'd do the responsible thing when we were pregnant and go ahead and buy a home. All right, and this was in 2007. I had no idea what I was doing in real estate. if any of you remember what the market was like back then, it was much like today. Properties would hit the market and agents were more concerned about getting a quick commission than maximizing what their sellers were netting. And so they would be gone overnight, like literally be gone same day or overnight. And technology wasn't where it was today. And so my wife and I every day would go drive around neighborhoods that we thought we'd like and just call off signs, right? And I think about that now, I'm like, what were we thinking, right? But that's what we did. We found one in South Provo. Who knows where Copenhagen is? Copenhagen Townhomes? Okay, who knows Eastgate, Scandia? There's South Provo, okay? We called on one of the signs that we didn't see the day before or 2 days before. Sure enough, they were still accepting offers. The listing agent, of course, excited to represent us, put in an offer. He called us later that day and says, hey, I really want you guys to get it, but to get it, you need to offer higher. We refused because it just didn't feel right, and we still got it, which goes back to the ethics of this agent and what was probably happening. It's an agent that does not have a good reputation, I now know, and is probably no longer in the industry, but did a lot of business back then. So in 2007, we bought the home, and then in 2008, we started losing a lot of value. And then we bought it for 152 or 155. It went down to probably as low as 110, okay, in the next couple of years. I graduated law school, well, let's say in 2008, I did my second-year internship at a law firm in Riverside, and doing a lot of real estate law. At that time, realized a couple things. One, I hated the law firm lifestyle and litigation and all the constant contention and conflict. It wasn't very fun. And the second thing is the market was crashing, especially in California. And I knew that they probably weren't going to offer me a job, which was, your second-year internship usually turns into a job. And so sure enough, a job offer didn't come. But by that time, I had started recognizing my love for entrepreneurship. I had received my mediator's license during my first year of law school, and had started mediating in small claims court for free as part of our program, and really loved conflict resolution and bringing people together and having just bringing these contentious situations to resolution where people were hugging and happy and moving on. Okay, and so after this whole experience, I'm getting into my third year law school. Who knows who Steve Bond is? I know some of you will. Yeah, he's a mega agent over at RE/MAX. So I started my career at RE/MAX because of this. He had started in real estate in my same townhouse complex and was just crushing it in 2007. And then by 2008 was just becoming a top agent already, and he recruited me to join his team, right? So my third year law school, I dedicated myself to becoming a realtor. As you can imagine, my parents weren't thrilled with that. They thought I'd become an attorney, and they were excited for that. And then I'm going to become a salesperson, right? The reputation of realtors. But I thought if this guy who helped us buy this other home could do it, there's got to be a better way, right? There's got to be a way with more representation, with more expertise and professionalism, with more integrity. And so I really saw an opportunity there. And so I went all in on real estate, graduated law school in 2009, and then started at RE/MAX. And then when I got into RE/MAX, I came, remember, from this law firm background where there was a lot more collaboration, there was a lot more professionalism, and every attorney in the law firm, they specialized, right? They had an expertise. They didn't try to do it all for everyone, right? So I came into the real estate profession thinking it would be a lot that way. And to my surprise, and especially at RE/MAX, it's more their business model, it was almost every agent for themselves. So I got in, and it was very overwhelming because there just wasn't a lot of support, not a lot of collaboration, and it was kind of the Wild West. And so, I was talking earlier to a few of you, my first year I closed 7 transactions and didn't make a dime. And it was very nerve-wracking. I also had $110,000 in student loans from law school, and we had just had our second child. And we almost didn't make it. We almost went and looked at something else. Thankfully, I did one flip with my dad at the end of that year. I netted about 10 grand, and that was enough to jumpstart my 2010. And in 2010, I closed 28 transactions. 2011, another 28 transactions. And then in 2012, I did 43. And then things started happening. I figured out how to do short sales and how to really make those efficient. And then I discovered Zillow when it was brand new. My brother bought a home in San Diego and found his agent through Zillow. So I looked into it and got into it. And so then in 2013, I closed 65 transactions. And that's when I started letting my entrepreneur side come out and start growing a team and systems. Dan Kennedy is an agent here. Who knows him? What great agent, probably runs the most lean, efficient team at this office. So he's a great agent to learn from. But he and I met just through our common interest of fishing, and fishing and real estate. So we started fishing a bunch together, and he started recruiting me to Keller Williams. And he arranged with Johnny to fly me out to a mega camp down in Austin in 2011, and a long time ago. And I thought kind of Keller Williams was a little culty, the cult of Gary Keller, a little salesy. So I was like, sure, free trip to Austin, I'll go check it out. And I was absolutely blown away. A lot of my business, what it is today, is due to what I learned at that convention. Gary Keller, he is heads above any other, real estate leader that I've ever had the honor of being around. At that convention, he talked about we're in the business of lead generation. And that's what started my mind working really towards growing a team and growing a business. It took me 7 more years to make the switch to Keller Williams. But I continued. All my friends and examples in the industry were at Keller Williams. My team that I grew at RE/MAX, it was basically a Keller team. It just took us 7 years to make the switch. So now we've been here for almost 2 years. We have a team that's probably about 20, 25 agents, about 5 or 6 admin, have big plans, but really enjoying this. Is even on my team, most of them, anytime I say, hey, can someone help me with the CMA? If I can, I'm going to raise my hand real fast because this is what I love doing. We almost have it as a policy on our team that for any team listing lead, you need to get 2 or 3 opinions on the value of a property for you to take to your client. Okay. One thing with CMAs is that it's not, well, I guess with estimating values, it's not an exact science. There isn't a value, right? It's more of an art, and we talk about giving a range. Okay. So we're going to go into the art of estimating values. I have 3 properties to practice on depending on how much time we have, but let's get started. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Yeah, and I tell this to new agents on our team all the time that often the first year in real estate for most of us, unless you're an incredible salesperson who loves knocking doors or just has a huge SOI or some other background, for most of us, it's going to be I tell them a paid internship your first year. You're not going to make a lot of money. It's getting things going. It's learning. I had to go to law school for 3 years, and they didn't even teach you how to be an attorney in law school. All right, they taught you how to think like an attorney. And then they gave me a degree and said, and you also have $110,000 you need to pay back, and I didn't have a job, right? And so it really is it's a grind. It's you are your business, and the art of learning. So if you don't know how to estimate values as a realtor, you're probably in the wrong profession. This is a crucial skill you need to be able to learn to advise your clients. 20 years ago, we controlled the information, right? We had all the listings. We could restrict what our clients could see, and they had to rely on us a lot more. Well, guess what? Our clients don't need us like that anymore. They're looking on 3 or 4 different websites for properties. They're often sending us the properties they want to see. So it's really a matter of being an advisor and being an expert. So the skill of estimating value is where you need to become an expert at it, not just proficient, not just decent at it. You need to become proficient. Okay. So yeah, what helped me go from 7 to 28 was basically over time with my reputation. I really built one of the core values of my business is generosity and giving back. And so I started throwing little events and really focusing on personal relationships. I have no background in sales. Well, prior to getting into real estate, I really detested sales and high pressure sales. So I knew if I was going to grow a successful real estate business, I would have to create loyalty some other way. And that was through just creating meaningful personal relationships that were authentic, and through generosity and giving back and just having fun and creating memories with my sphere of influence and growing my sphere of influence. So I always tell my clients, I will never sell you. If you're my client, I will advise you. I will counsel you. I will give you the best advice possible. And then whatever you decide, then we'll go sell everyone else. Okay, so I create partnerships with my clients. But yeah, there's a lot of growing pains back then. The market really bottomed out in 2011. It's a lot like today. A lot of the listings were controlled by bank-owned agents, right? They're bank-owned foreclosures. They were short sales, you know, and a lot of the buyers, there were cash investors. You would put in an offer on a short sale, wait 6 months to get an answer back. You get an acceptance, and then the buyer would walk, and you'd start over. It was a grind. It was a lot of work. So I can definitely relate with agents today. The market's a lot different today than it was 3, 4, 5 years ago. There's a lot of business to be had, but it's really a grind. And I did want to bring up, don't be afraid of a down market, okay? A down market, that's what I got into, a down market. And in a down market is where you get to learn how to be a really good agent. And then when things shift, you put yourself in a really good position to take market share, okay? So it's really a great opportunity right now to create a career. And as things turn on, we don't know how long this is going to last, right? This could be 6 months. It could be 2 years. We don't know right now. But there are a lot of transactions happening. And so, you know, on our team, we closed, I think, 40 last month. It was our best month ever. We're only going to close 20, 25 this month. But it really is like the agents that are going to work are closing deals. But some are falling out. I mean, it really is. You just have to work, okay? So let's get started on a few things here. One thing I love about KW, and one reason I switched, is how much collaboration there is here. I have never been at a brokerage where just everyone is willing to share, okay? And take that opportunity. There's great teams, Keller Williams agents all throughout the state. Take that opportunity, go take people out to lunch or get together for coffee and just discuss and find out what they do in their businesses. And I would tell you, find the people whose business you want to emulate. There's dozens of different ways to run your team or run your business. We run ours very unique. I don't think there's anyone in Utah that runs their team like ours. So we've loved going to these national conventions and meeting teams in other states and collaborating with them. And we share back and forth how to run our businesses. And we're really lucky to be at KW. I'm a huge advocate of KW. We've been here almost 2 years. It's done nothing but just help our business take off. Did anyone watch the last Ignite on Monday with Jackie Peterson? I was going to ask if you had any ahas, but no one watched it. But I'll tell you one aha I had, and this kind of relates to today. Who knows what the cloud CMA is? How many people actually really use it? A little bit? Okay. I hadn't really. And afterwards, we jumped into it, and we're going to make it a huge part of our team presentations for our clients. So I would encourage everyone to go learn the Cloud CMA. It is actually an incredible tool. It used to cost when they first created it. Now it's free. So learn it. The Cloud CMA is more of a presentation of your CMA. Okay, so it's not really a great tool for estimating value as much as presenting the value that you've estimated. So today we're going to work on estimating value, and then the Cloud CMA is a great way to present it. Let's see here. Yeah, so a little about me as well. My dad, it was like a chess master, and he's, you know, that side of the family, they're all Jews. They're Jewish people, and numbers just get, you know, when I was in school, my math scores and when I did testing were always 99, 100, and then my language skills were always in the mid 70s. Okay, so my mind loves numbers, right? And I get excited about numbers and strategy, and so, but for some of us, it's the opposite. They make better salespeople in person, but then sometimes the numbers don't make as much sense. So this is a great opportunity to learn from numbers. And then again, we're going to practice 2 or 3 together. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. We've gone all over this. So how do I get this to work? Sid, just hit down. Yep, there we go. Okay. Do you guys all have this? Okay, we're just going to go through this. I've taken some notes. Okay, so we're going to talk about first. There's 3 things here that we're going to go over: how markets work, local market conditions, and pricing criteria. The timing to teach this is actually pretty incredible because I don't know that we've been in a more intense market with more shifts to value and criteria than we have in the last 6 months. Honestly, what is the quarter? I'll just ask you guys, which quarter do we usually see most appreciation for the year? Second quarter, I heard it. Okay, so what happens in first quarter? So we have the holidays, everyone kind of takes their time off, you know, they're enjoying the first snow. It's been a busy end to the year, right? Decembers are crazy. But what starts happening in January? What happens at New Year's? You start getting New Year's resolutions, right? And they're usually by buyers. What starts happening in the first quarter? You generally start having a lot of buyers entering the market. Who here owns a home? Who here would want to, if you could pick a time to list, want to list first quarter? It's snowy, it's cold. So, I mean, I wouldn't want to list first quarter, right? It's kind of a pain. But what do buyers want to do? They've got their New Year's resolutions. They're starting to feel maybe trapped in their small home in winter. So you start getting more buyers coming out and looking, right? And then what do we start seeing in the second quarter? We start seeing, we don't have the inventory. We start having more buyers. What does that do? It affects the supply and demand, right? And then second quarter, as spring starts getting a little nicer, what do we get? We start getting a few more listings, okay? But then when do we see the most listings start hitting? We got spring break in April, and when does school get out? End of May. So when do we see a lot of homes start listing? It's usually, end of April, May, June, through the summer. And that's when we start getting more balance. And so that's why we generally typically see that cycle of more appreciation in the second quarter. It's really interesting, though, for me, being in this 11 years now, when the market was crashing and there was short sales and foreclosures and things would take 9 months to close. And then there was a lot of new construction, that we didn't see that as much. It was more balanced out. But then once it turned around, we started seeing the cycle of second quarter appreciation. So something good to know. Local market conditions, what affects that here in Utah? We'll go over all this in detail, but local market conditions, what does that mean? Nothing. Well, what's going on right now? COVID, right? We've got, what happened with BYU with COVID? They may not go back to school in the fall. Well, what's that going to do for BYU approved housing? Which was already a crappy ROI. What's going to happen there? We can go over more detail. Who knows Belmont condos in Provo? BYU approved. What happened to them about 6 or 7 or 8 years ago? Does anyone know? They used to allow their 3-bedroom units. They used to allow 6 individuals per unit, but there was only 2 parking spots per unit. Provo City came down and said, you are breaching zoning. We are now limiting you, or we've always limited you, but now we're going to enforce it to 3 individuals per unit. What do you think that did to the values overnight? Yeah, their ROI, they just dropped. Okay, and that's something that affects that local market condition. So we'll talk about that a little more, and then we'll go over pricing criteria. So because I don't want to lose my voice by the end, who can read? Do we have the mic somewhere? All right, whoever can turn it on. Where is it? Sarah, read that first one for us. Yeah.
2 principles about markets and value provide a great foundation for pricing any real estate. Market dynamics. Markets operate on the law of supply and demand. When supply is high and demand is down, prices fall. When supply is low and demand is up, prices increase.
Okay, let's talk about that real quick. And you can put that on too. Let's pass it around. I want some participation here. So what affects supply and demand here in Utah County and Utah in general? You've talked about some.
How many people are selling and how many people are...
Yeah, but what affects that? Why do people sell and why do people buy here in Utah County? People having kids, yes. Family growth or change in family situation. Okay, what else? Yep. Where have we seen a lot of that? In Lehigh. My mom's family is from Lehigh. I remember coming up to Utah as a kid. I grew up in Southern California. I remember coming up to Lehigh as a kid. Okay, it was like legit, like hardcore farmland. Like you drove to Salt Lake from Provo and there was nothing but green. Okay, so crazy to see what's going on with Lehigh. When did that start? Yeah, that was about 2000, I want to say 4-ish. It really started growing. And then, the bubble really created Traverse Mountain. Like it started going nuts. And then bam, that area was hit so hard because the tech really hadn't come in quite strong enough yet. I wish I could have gone back and bought a dozen homes back in 2010, 11 in Lehigh, like up in Traverse. I mean, I sold a lot up there in the beginning. They were so cheap. People were wondering if that area would just die off. Okay. But then what happened? Adobe, and then the tech started just really coming in. And now it's probably just as, you know, an urban center as Provo is. Okay. What else? What's affected Vernal? Yeah, gas and oil. Yeah, effects in the market. You know, their market really like even when ours was going nuts a couple of years ago, or in the last couple of years, theirs was really struggling because there just wasn't the demand for that. What else affects though, like supply here?
I mean, right now, I have a lot of clients that are actually looking to downsize. So I'm kind of a change in family situation too, but a lot of people are listing their homes that now those younger families want to buy. They're bigger and in more desirable areas, and then they're downsizing to small condos and townhomes.
Yeah. And I'll tell you one thing we've noticed as well is that builders haven't been able to keep up with the demands of people relocate. So you could talk about California, right? Like I know my wife's family's up in Idaho Falls. They hate Californians, right? They come up and they sell their home for $1 million in California, and then they go buy some home for 300,000 and bring their liberal ways with them, right? And they change the politics up there, and they increase the values of everything so that it's hard for these Idaho farmers, right, to afford things, right? But have we seen that in Utah? Like dramatically. How many of us have had cash deals over $500,000? Like crazy, right? Like that's incredible. But that's some of what's driving people want to retire early, or there's some other thing driving them to Utah. How many people leave Utah and then want to come back? You know, we got a lot of that. Large families in Utah, right? And so all those baby boomers that had all those kids are now starting to have their own kids and wanting to move back to Utah. So there's a lot of neat things happening. I want to talk about one in particular, and this is one that helps me, again, create confidence that this economy will continue in Utah. What makes the Wasatch Front very unique as far as geography? Mountains on both sides. Okay, we live in a valley, right? If you've gone to, Nate, what's it called? The annual presentation of the state of the housing market in Utah. They do it Utah Housing Summit. It's every June. Incredible. They had it virtually this year, but we've gone the last 3 years. Incredible presentation, but they talk about the amount of land left to develop in the counties. They're running out, okay? And then when it runs out, what starts happening? Values go up. The supply is done. Right? And everyone complains now about multi-housing, right? All the small lots, all the condos, all the townhomes, but why are they doing that? We're running out of land. So you buy a home now that's on a quarter acre, that was small in Utah 20 years ago, right? That was a small lot even, okay? But now you buy a home with a quarter acre, that's considered some good land, okay? So I call it kind of the San Francisco or the California effect. Like we're having that here. People who want to live close, like, so as many of you know, like we bought a gym out in Austin, and we actually bought a home out there. We were considering moving out there. And we bought a home that was 30 minutes from downtown. And all our friends out there thought we were crazy. Like, that's so far away. And for us, we're like, wait, we drive 50 minutes to Salt Lake all the time. And over there, though, there's this idea that you need to be within 15 to 20 minutes of downtown because that's where all the action is. But again, they're running out of land in Austin. But why is land so cheap in Texas? Why are homes so cheap in Texas as a general rule? You just keep going, right? There is nothing keeping you in. But here in Utah, we have the valley. And I'm very confident that as long as the jobs stay here, that we're going to have the California effect here. And I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, they told us that the population of Utah would double in the next 20 years. The infrastructure is behind. And so living close to where you work is going to be more and more important. Living close to family or wherever you want to be. And so that's going to really affect the demand. Okay. And supply is going to be low. And so it's a great, they basically said you can't go wrong buying real estate in Utah. And we've seen that, right? Through the potential, like through COVID. I don't think there could be a better place to have lived through COVID, especially professionally, than Utah County. I mean, it was just stellar. And we were on all these pages on Facebook with top teams all over the country. You know, I feel very fortunate to be in Utah County because of this situation. So Okay, determination of value. Who's got the mic? Or someone? And it's up here too. You probably can't read that.
Okay, can you hear me? Determination of value. Value is established based on an agreement between a willing seller and a willing buyer. The tug of war is always between what the seller wants and what the buyer is willing to pay.
Okay, when I teach this to the team, I always ask, what's the definition of market value, right? I think we need to understand that definition very well. I actually could turn it back over to Sarah because she always gets the answer right. What's the definition of market value?
So the definition is what a seller is willing to sell for and what a buyer is willing to pay for at an arm's length transaction.
Perfect. And that's something they taught us back in our mediation class about negotiation. I'm going to read you a more thorough definition. I looked up a couple peer-reviewed articles, and it kind of went over the evolution of what the definition of market value. The first time it came up was in a California, let's see here, so who knows what eminent domain is? Okay, right, when the government comes in and takes land because they have to build a freeway or some other project. Okay. Is it that one? Okay. Could be me. It's usually me. My wife said, right? Okay. And so they were trying to determine what was market value because they needed to compensate the landowners. Okay. And their first one, where do I have it here, was that it was the highest price estimated in terms of money which the land would bring if exposed for sale in the open market, with reasonable time allowed in which to find a purchaser, buying with knowledge of all the uses and purposes to which it was adapted and for which it was capable. Okay, that was the first definition ever that they could find of market value in the US and trying to define it. Okay, now I've got I love this one. I read this. This was one, the most recent one in California back in the 90s. And it has several different points. Try to follow, okay? And I want to hear your thoughts on this. It really defines it, and I think it's important because this is stuff that you will want to explain to your seller, right? Because there's different ways to estimate value, right? There's an appraisal, right? Appraisers do appraisals, but is that always an accurate estimate of value? No, and we've seen some that are horribly off, right? There's also Z estimates, right? There's different things. There's county records. Right? There's all these ways to estimate values, but I want you to listen to this so you can explain this to your clients when you're doing your listing presentation so they have confidence that you're an expert, okay? So value means the most probable price which a property would bring in a competitive and open market under the conditions of a fair sale without the price being affected by undue stimulus. Okay, think that's an important one because there's a short sale or foreclosure or undue stimulus, like yes. Whereby the sale is consummated on a specified date and the title of the property is passed from the seller to the buyer under the following conditions. The buyer and seller are acting prudently and knowledgeably, okay, which is important, right? Because some agents will advise their clients wrong and that's not very prudent. B, the buyer and seller are typically motivated, okay? That's important too. If it's the home they grew up in, are they typically motivated? No, that's above, they might be willing to pay above fair market value. C, the buyer and seller are well informed or well advised and acting what they consider are their own best interests. Okay, so again, no undue pressure. A reasonable time is allowed to expose the property for sale on the open market. I love this one, right? If a home is listed and under contract within 6 hours, did it probably go for fair market value? Like, probably not. And on our team, our general strategy is to list a property on a Monday or Tuesday, not allow showings till Saturday, allow showings all through the weekend, and we won't even look at offers till Monday evening. That way, we at least give it a week of exposure on the open market to make sure we're getting fair market value. Payment is made within US dollars or pursuant to another financial arrangement, and the sale price represents the normal consideration for the property and is unaffected by special or creative financing or sales concessions granted by any person associated with the sale. What could that mean? Like seller finance, they need to go farm the property. One of my biggest transactions was 80 acres out in Payson, where they wanted to farm it. They had a special interest in it. That's a very different value than someone who might have wanted to buy it for residential. But anyways, I'll share this with you later if you want it, but I think this is an awesome definition. I think it's the one that we use is very simple and very easy to explain to our clients, but this one is a lot more thorough and it's good for you to know. So any thoughts or questions on fair market value? Okay. And sometimes when we have, you know, like conditions right now where we have 3 or 4 buyers for every listing that goes out there, it really, you know, we could get these offers driven up. I put up a property for $265. It just went under contract for almost $15,000 above list. And we had 4 or 5 offers, honestly, in the same price range. We'll see what it appraises at. You know, and we'll talk about that. Question? Here, get you a hand on the mic. Or I could repeat it, either way.
So I got a question about fair market value.
Okay.
So it's a buyer and a seller agreeing on a price, right? Like, so I've had houses where we've had multiple offers. We've sold, so then we decide on one, go under contract, and then it appraises low. Well, isn't the value what people are willing to pay? So when you have an appraisal that's low, I guess there's a balance there. And how do you, and you can't usually dispute the appraisal. So how does, you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it leads me into my next part of this very well. But I will say, we're talking fair market value versus an appraised value. And what does an appraised value represent? What does an appraisal use?
For the lender.
Yeah, and what do they use to determine the value? They use sold comparables. Now, sold comparables that sold in first quarter or fourth quarter when we're in the second or third quarter are probably not an accurate estimate of market value at that time. But an appraised value also represents what a lender is willing to lend on the property to protect their security. Okay, and that's the big difference there. And we've learned with VA loans, the VA appraisers are like extra conservative, right? And I think it's because they have very small margins. They don't charge hardly, because they represent vets. They try to give them the best deals, but almost in doing so, they shoot them in the foot. Because if I have multiple offers and I see a VA loan and I'm worried about it appraising, that's probably the last offer I'm going to pick. You know, because it's unfortunate, but VA loans 50-50 don't appraise. That's because they don't have the margins, and so they can't deal with properties that end up going to foreclosure and then they lose a bunch of money on them, right? But conventional loans, they require basically a minimum of 5% down. A lot of them are 10 or 20, and you know, FHA, there's a lot more cost and points up front, so they're building up their reserves so that when properties, you know, go into foreclosure, they have a little bit more of a buffer so they don't go into default. So does that make sense? Just 2 different types. So my next question was going to be, what are all the different ways to determine value? So we're talking about CMAs. That's one. What are the other ways that people or that we can use to determine value? Awesome. So I'm going to talk about that a little today. I call them competitive listings. It's a snapshot of their competition that are active and under contract. It's exactly what's on the market at that time, and looking at what's active, what's under contract, and why. What else?
Calculating appreciation.
There we go, calculating appreciation. If you know the home sold 3 years ago and you can calculate how much that market had appreciated in 3 years, that can give you a pretty rough estimate of where it should be. We'll talk about that very briefly. What else? I mean, and it's not just us. What are other tools that can be used to estimate value? Well, there's county records, right? You go into the county records, you know that the county estimates based on what they know that's how they do property taxes, right? But we know that those will probably be low because they can't overtax you or they get in trouble. So they're usually low. So we don't want our sellers relying on those. What else? I have several more. Zillow Z estimates, right? Why are those inaccurate in Utah in particular? And this is good for you to know when you're talking to your clients. Where do all they're going to Zillow. So we know that. They're going to go look at the estimate of their home. In Utah, it's particularly, someone say it for me. Thank you, inaccurate. Why is that?
Usually several days behind, even weeks
Well, they don't keep their website like our MLS. But what's unique about Utah compared to maybe like I have to look at California. I think we're a non-disclosure state in Utah, which means the terms of our sales are not public records, and Zillow does not have access to our MLS. And so they've been trying, and they're trying through Teams. They're trying all they can to get the data. It's one thing Keller Williams does an amazing job at. It's why we can do command in our own websites, is because Keller Williams controls the data because we have records to all of our transactions. But we're a non-disclosure state, so Zillow does the best they can to figure out what things they sold for, and then they use their calculations. On the cloud, CMA, it actually has a whole page that goes over how inaccurate the comps were, what they actually sold for, and what the Z estimate was at the time they sold. It's awesome. So you should check it out, okay? But the average, it's like a shotgun approach. They say it can be about 12% off on Zillow, which is kind of a big deal, right? But if you shoot a shotgun at a target, a few of the pellets probably will hit the mark or be close. So sometimes it is okay. And especially in large complexes where there's a lot of similar properties, it's easier for them to be accurate. But we definitely want to turn people away from Z estimates and county record appraisals. And then, the last one I wanted to bring up, investment properties. Okay, with investment properties, how do we calculate values? Cap rates. Yep, it's more based on return on investment and cap rates. All right, so if you get if there's a property that can be in a rental or a residential or a single family, just owner occupied, you may want to run the numbers on both and see which one would produce the best value for your client. How many of us have sold properties that could be sold as just a normal owner occupant, but they have a rental contract in place for a year or two, and they want to just sell it with that renter still in it with the lease active? Well, sometimes we have to go to them and be like, well, as a rental property, it's probably worth about 10% less than if you were to be able to just put it out there in the normal market, especially right now with interest rates. Oh, so we didn't talk about that. What affects demand? Interest rates, right? COVID, what's happening all right now? We're second, third quarter. We've got incredibly historic low interest rates, and we have COVID. There's so much happening right now that the art of estimating value is much more complicated now, okay? And so this is a great time to be learning this. Okay, let's switch. Any thoughts, any questions? Let's go to number 2. Okay, let's have someone just read this section, and then we'll get into number 3. Who's got the remote or the mic?
Local market conditions, all of number 2,
yep.
What you said? To price accurately and price to sell, you must constantly study the conditions in your local market and in the specific neighborhoods where you want to specialize. Here are some basic factors to watch. Inventory, how much is for sale and is inventory rising or falling? Days on market, how long it is taking properties to sell. Price per square foot, a good comparative indicator of prices when a group of properties has common qualities and features. Changes in the local landscape, monitor changes in major employers, shopping, schools, other services in the community, and changes in local laws that impact housing.
Let's talk about a few of these real quick. Price per square foot. I always tell agents on my team it's a horrible way to estimate value unless you're comparing it to basically the exact same floor plan in the same area. Okay, if there's a whole neighborhood full of very similar homes, you can do it, or townhomes. But as a general rule, it's just here in Utah in particular, it doesn't seem to be an accurate estimating tool. One thing unique about Utah as well is we have basements. And we all think that's pretty normal. You leave Utah, most states don't have basements. And so again, most homes outside of Utah, they're fully finished. Here in Utah, you have all types of random situations and different floor plans. And so I really don't like the price per square foot tool to estimate value. That's just my opinion. And then changes in local landscape. Who remembers when Lone Peak was announced and then built? And all of a sudden, everyone wanted to be in Lone Peak boundaries, right? Or the redivision of school boundaries. LDS temples, that can do all types of crazy things. It's less so now, but when I first got into it and there weren't as many, they'd announce a new temple and all of a sudden like the homes in that area would just go up 10, 20%, and so just know those things, okay? Any questions? Nope, okay. All right, let's jump into pricing criteria. Who wants to read this one? And then we're gonna get into some fun stuff. Someone over here. Yep. Here we go. There you go.
Getting the facts about pricing means evaluating a given property against other comparable properties. This means comparing your client's 20-year-old 3-bedroom, 2-bath property in a neighborhood of similarly built homes with homes that sold recently that match or come very close to matching the particulars of their home. The following factors come into play when looking for comparable properties: location, size, amenities, condition.
Okay, let's talk about these a little bit. This is where the art comes in. Okay, the more you know your market, the more you know where to pull from certain neighborhoods that might be similar demand. It's interesting in Utah, right? Utah, you can hang your license here, but you can sell homes in Ogden and St. George, right? And let's be real, most of us do not know those markets. Go to California, do you know it's very common there for buyers to have 3 different buyer brokers, 1 per county, because they're looking at 3 different counties, and they want. Some agents will only work, like Newport Beach. They'll only work a couple miles of properties, and that is their market. Colorado, there is a lot of like geofarming, and they will work 1 or 2 subdivisions, and that's all they work because they know them just inside and out. Then you come to Utah, and we're like, oh yeah, my uncle's up in Ogden, and he's going to represent me in buying a home down in Provo, right? And then they're like, well, and then they call you as a listing agent and ask if you could let them in. You have fun conversations there. And I think we do a huge disservice if we try to do too much in a market that we don't understand. So again, I think the more you can specialize, the better off you're going to be at advising your clients and getting good reviews and having happy clients. So let's talk about location, pricing criteria. The interesting thing about location is that no 2 have the same location. Even if they're condos on top of each other, one might have a slightly better view. One might be a middle floor that has to hear people from beneath and above. One could, who knows? There's all these differences in, like, no 2 locations are the same. And so when you're comparing them, you have to know the pros and cons of each one that you're comparing them to. Okay, so honestly, what I do when I do my CMA reports, we'll get into this a little more, is I usually do one as a general market. Like, without seeing your property, I'm going to tell you the general range that I see your property could be in. I'll narrow it down once I see your property, but this is the general range that I see. Okay, size. This is an important one. So let's talk about the size of a home. Where do you get information about the size of a property, or even the details in general?
From the county records.
Are those always accurate? Why not?
They don't get updated.
Yeah.
If something's remodeled or finished.
And they're done by, like, if things are done by permit, they get it. If not, they're not. And sometimes builders will submit an original plan, and then the buyers change it, right? And then add a pop out, do something different, add a third car, different things, and they don't update it with the city, okay? And who knows, maybe just human error. But I'm shocked at always like going to the county records and seeing inaccuracies. And now they did this weird switch where they don't include the basement square footage, and it's gotten a lot more complicated. But where else do we get size?
Jared?
Get past appraisals. We love those because they're usually the appraiser measures them, and they tend to be more accurate. Where else? Previous listing. That's a good one too. Okay. So whenever we're pulling up properties, we first look for a previous listing, and then second, we compare it to the county records. And then we should always ask our clients if they have a copy of an appraisal that we could also use. Okay. What size do we want to use? Let's say we have all 3 of them and none of them match.
You pay for your own appraisal.
You can. So we often will offer to split with our clients. So it only is usually just to have a property measured is $100 to $200 depending on the appraiser. So we'll either cover it or offer to split that or credit it back to our seller at closing. Or you could take the highest amount on each that you can reasonably justify. Okay, we've had times where someone used the county records and then our client sent us their appraisal and it showed an extra 150 square feet. And we're like, just as a rough estimate, hey, at $100 a square foot, we just made you $1,500 extra, or whatever, the amount is, or $15,000 extra dollars. just by being able to increase the square footage of your property on the listing. Okay, so really there's an art of figuring out the size of a property. One thing we can't do though is measure it ourselves. Okay, that is against, we do not have that as an area of expertise. Unless you're a certified appraiser, you as an agent are not allowed to measure a property and then use that, okay? That's a good way to get in trouble. So any questions about that? Okay, the next one is amenities. What does an amenity mean? We usually think of like homeowners associations and different things like that. What does an amenity mean? Can be, and that's more location, right? Is what are you by? You know, you could have the same exact home, but one might be across the street from a park and a splash pad and, you know, all this, while the other one might be, you know, next to like trailer park. So that's going to affect the value with location. But amenities, what is a home's amenities? What does that mean? Okay, I'll read you the definition. It says features of a property that make it more or less valuable to potential buyers. Okay, so what, give me some examples. Pool. Great, yeah, huge master, but even walk-in closet. RV parking. Right, like I've been to some smaller homes, but they have amazing RV parking. And it's like, man, you have these families now that they want a smaller home, but they're always out in their RV or their toys. And so that RV parking is just as important as the home. Okay, I'll tell you, a hot tub, deck, right? Some of these can be pros and cons, right? Some people don't want things. So one thing when I'm doing a rough value estimate in the beginning without seeing the property, one thing I always ask, if there have been any major updates, renovations, remodeling that you've done to the property, or any changes since you bought it that will help me better estimate value. Okay, great question to ask so that they know that you're actually really trying to give them a specific value based on their property. Okay, and then the next one, any questions about that? Not, the next one is condition. Condition's a fun one. All right, we're in a market now where there's usually 4 buyers for every seller, and people will look past condition a little more, which is great for those of us that, you know, have homes that may not. I'm about to list one in Eagle Mountain that has had renters for 10 years and did not treat it well. And so it's a good time to be listing something like that versus, you know, a market where it's more balanced. But with condition, how many of you have been told that it's in good condition and then you go see the property? Right? So there's a difference. There's verbal explanation of condition. There's your actual visual inspection, right? But what else is there after that? A professional inspection, right? And so when we do a walkthrough and when we list a home, that's based on visual, okay? And then we could estimate the value based on that. But when the professional inspection comes back and says, hey, the roof is on its last legs and, you know, there's this issue or that issue, does that affect market value? It does, and we need to prepare our sellers for that. You know, that from what you know and what I know, this is where I think market value is, you know, in this general area, and we've negotiated that even with the buyer, but if something comes up, it might affect market value, and we need to be ready to renegotiate. Okay, let's see here. All right, let's jump over to number, that's it? Okay. Your turn, market statistics. Okay, everyone has their laptops up? Okay, so we're gonna spend some time, and for those of you on Zoom, you can do the same. If you have any questions for me, I don't know the best way to do that. My phone number is 801-360-1003. Text me, and I will try to answer your questions or engage somehow or give me a call. Everyone log on to your MLS. Okay, and this is one of my ahas in preparing for this is I need to spend more time in this area. But you have your statistics tab on your MLS. There's, I believe, 6 different tabs or 6 different reports or ways to help you better understand or present current market conditions. Who has the mic and can read those off for us? Who's on it? You can do this.
Nope.
There you go.
It has absorption report, home sales graphs, market summary report, quarterly comparison, sales per month report, and daily snapshot report.
Okay. They all have their uses. Some are more important than others, in my opinion, or more helpful than others. Let's go over those real quick. What was the first one? The absorption report. Who knows what? I mean, I hardly use this, to be honest. But let's talk about, like, so if you pull that up on your laptop, do you see the question mark little circle things on there when you go into the absorption report? Can you pass it to someone? So I want someone to read. What is an absorption rate or absorption report? Who's got it up? Okay, and pass the mic. And again, learn these reports. I spent a lot of time in these yesterday relearning them because it's been a while.
Absorption rate is the ratio of the number of sold properties to a given length of time. Inventory is an indication of supply of properties based on the absorption rate. So absorption rate and inventory are calculated as follows. Absorption rate equals the solds divided by months. The result is in properties months. For example, if there are 24 properties sold over the last 3 months, the absorption rate is 8 properties per month.
So this is how you calculate months of inventory, right? So if there's, on average in that market, there's 8 properties that sell every month, and you only have 12 active properties, you know, if nothing else were to list, that you would be out of inventory in 6 weeks, right? In a month and a half, okay? So this is a good way to explain to your clients, like if it's a buyer's market or seller's market, right? What is considered a balanced market? How many months inventory? Yeah, 4 to 6-ish, somewhere in there, okay? And then anything above 6 is considered a buyer's market. Anything below 4 is considered a seller's market. And if you play around with this report, depending on how many months out you go, we're sitting around less than 1 to 1, a little over 1 month of inventory. If we stopped listing, homes would be out in a month in a lot of these markets. So that's good to explain to your sellers, you know, and to your buyers especially. Like, guys, there just isn't much inventory. You better be ready to come out hot, okay? There's going to be multiple offers. You know, we talked about this in team meeting yesterday or in our onboarding. Setting expectations as an agent, we talk about estimating value is one of the most important skills. Right now, another one is how to set expectations with your clients to help them accomplish their goals and to make you look good. Because if you overpromise and underdeliver, guaranteed they want to use you again. But if you could set realistic expectations and help them understand this principle that, guys, there is a month of inventory. And you could actually do it for their specific market as a buyer. They're looking for townhomes in Utah County and with certain criteria. You could do, like, pull up that absorption report. You could put that all in and you can see how much months of inventory there are. And tell them, guys, there's legit half a month of inventory in your market. You know, that means that if we stopped listing these would be gone in 2 weeks. That's, I mean, and that's, I think, probably what it's at. Thankfully, there's a lot of new ones being built that helps on that. But I mean, even Edge Homes, we work with them a lot. They have nothing. That's, I mean, they list new ones that are done in 6 or 9 months and they're gone right away. So it's pretty crazy. Okay, the next report. Oh, well, no, what's the next report on the MLS? Home sales graph. That's another fun one. It helps with a lot of these market stats. What's the next one? Okay, so the home sales graph I love using. That's what I use to calculate appreciation. It's a great graphic to use with your clients. It shows how property values have, it shows 3 things. One, average median property values every quarter. It also shows the amount of properties listed and the amount of properties sold. So it shows some supply and demand and the trends that happen. So I really love that graph. And then the next one is the home sales report, right? Number 3, market summary. Okay, and this is, yeah, I'll have you play with this one. This one shows the different, for different statuses, days on market, some different stats there, which can be really helpful to use. And then what's the 4th one? Quarterly. You can play around with that one. What's the next one? Sales per month. That could be a good one to show when your clients are asking the best time to sell, or the average, you know, days on market, or different things like that based on when a property lists. That can be a very good one. And then what's the next one? Daily snapshot, which is actually year over year. It's really interesting. Yeah, I don't want to get off of this and pull it up on here, but we'll play around with those. Okay, so we're going to give you about 5 to 10 minutes here to play with these. Let's They have three things here: days on market, average price per square foot, and how many homes on the market now. I don't like those second two. Let's do, I mean, honestly, I don't love any of these because days on market, I don't think is a great indicator of an agent's like abilities or doing it right. Because a day on market means that they probably didn't get full exposure to get full market value. But we can see if things list too long.
Question. So
Yeah.
Is this a smart thing to do though? If you put it, say you put it on the market like on a Wednesday and you say, but we're not going to do any, we're not going to do any showings until an open house, or we're not going to accept any offers until an open house on Saturday. Does that actually hurt at all? Because it's on the market.
Well, technically it could hurt your days on market because you're not like accepting something real fast. But I actually tell my sellers now, I have a few every once in a while that ask about like, what's your average like days on market for your listing? And I just tell them like, that's a horrible indicator of an agent's abilities, because honestly, it's like a lot of agents will try to just put it on the market, take the first offer because they want to get paid quickly. It's like, I tell my sellers now, we slow it down. Like, I think things are going too quick. We want to slow it down, not just pick the highest price, but the one that will close with the highest price, you know? And so and we want backup offers. So let's give this a weekend, and let's not look at offers till Monday evening or Tuesday, so that people, because what happens, right? A new property hits the market, buyers hurry and submit an offer, and they put it way high, and then it gets accepted. And then what happens to the buyers? Like, oh crap, like I got it. Did I overpay? Like I didn't even have time to think about it. Do I actually really want this home? And then they end up backing out. And then 2 weeks later, it's going back on the market. You have no backup offers. And now it looks like it's been like listed for 2 weeks. And so it's, no, let's give this thing a week of exposure before we go under contract. And so I explain that to my sellers that I actually, we try to slow down the process.
Is that hurt the appraisal?
No, not at all. And then I'll tell you one little trick real quick too. When your properties go for above appraised value, or sorry, when your properties go for above list price, talk to your seller, change the list price on the MLS to what it went under contract for. Because what does the appraiser get when they get the call to do an appraisal? They get a copy of the listing. So if they see that I listed it at 265 and that it went under contract for 280, what is the appraiser immediately triggered? It's like, oh, I need to really watch on this one because it's going way above list price. But what if he gets the listing and it shows 280? He probably didn't do the research to see that originally was 265. Okay, and so it's a little trick to help maybe mess with the because appraisers are just people, right? And so it's a good way to kind of make just a little trick to get them to appraise it a little higher. So let's play on these tabs or on these reports. Let me give you a few things here. Let's do the daily snapshot. Is that what it's called? Let's compare that. Do that for Utah County, single family homes. I'll give you the criteria, so you might want to write this down. Is that it does on that one? Okay, so let's just do Utah County. And then I'm going to ask you, yes. Oh yeah, come join someone. Yeah, come join. The daily snapshot. This is a newer one, I think. And let's get rid of the statuses of canceled and expired and withdrawn. Let's keep it to active, backup, under contract, and sold.
So on the left-hand side, we're just going to keep it active and
Does it not have sold?
No, it doesn't have sold.
Okay. No. It's year over year. This is a great way to compare this year to last year. What's happening? So again, I don't have this up in front of me. I probably should have my laptop up here, but what are you seeing? Let's look. Compare actives last year to this year. Someone grab a mic and give me the numbers. Okay, Nate.
all right, active last year 9,798.
This year, 5,862. The difference is down 40.17%.
Okay, think about that. We have 40% less active listings right now than we did the same time last year. Okay, that is a supply and demand indicator, right? That's a big deal. I wish they had a way to combine backup and under contract, because they're all under contract. Okay, but let's talk about under contracts. I think, well, let's compare backups. I think what are the backups?
Backups last year, 898, and at the same time this year, 1,222. So it's up 36%.
And part of that is because backup is kind of a newer thing in the last 2 years, so people weren't using it as much back then as well. But then under contracts, what do we have?
Under contract last year, 6,820. The same time this year, 8,659.
Okay, that's incredible. How much what change is that?
Almost 27%.
And you add the backups, the difference in backups, you're probably up 35% or 32%. Okay, so we have 40% less active listings, 30% or more under contract. Okay, so there's actually more closings happening, more likely, but we have that much less inventory. What is that going to do? It's going to drive values up. This is we talked about competitive listings. This is a perfect example of something you should be presenting to your clients and say, and because it could be the opposite next year, which actually I wouldn't be surprised. You know, interest rates go up, you know, COVID's over, you know, more new construction, this could balance out or change. And this is a great way to show them, like, hey, sellers, there's a lot of interest right now. You know, this is perfect condition to sell a home. This could change though. Interest rates go up, COVID gets done, more people put their homes on the market. This could flip very quickly. So this really, there's more demand, a lot more demand, and there's a lot less supply. So it's again, that's something to prepare your buyer. I mean, you present this to buyers and to sellers. This is a great tool. Okay, let's do, let's go to the, what's it called? The home sales graph. So I'm going to give you some criteria for this one. Actually, I could write it up here. Let's do Utah County. Let's do single family residences. Let's do, it's built 2000 to 2018. I used to call this the American dream home, right? Like a newer home. Let's do 3,500 to 4,500 square feet. Let's do a 3+ car garage. And let's do 0.25 to 0.4 acres. And then let's do 4+ bed. What else? Anything else that makes this a dream home? That's pretty good. The standard American dream home right here. And we can get more specific to, you know, North Utah County. There's other things we can do, but let's just keep this to Utah County. Let's just, no, to start, let's start at 20. I want you to be able to see it. Let's do 2015, and then we'll jump it back all the way to the beginning, and you can kind of see the trend. So that's your water. Where did I put my, oh, here's mine. No, I got one, thanks. Yeah, I should have had this up here somehow. Let's see, did you get it up? To 2015? Let's actually change this a touch. Because we're doing 2015, I like avoiding new construction because those comps are sometimes inaccurate, right? So let's put this back from, well, there's other ways we can do it. You can check a box in there that states it's built. So let's do the box for built. Because that means they actually sold a home that was a spec or basically done. Did that change it much, Sarah? If you did built. Because sometimes they advertise to be built, and then someone buys it and builds something that's way larger, and they don't ever change the to be built listing. So do we all have the same? Yeah. Yeah, if you want to pull it up here. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, cool graph. I see. I love this stuff. And then if you have the graph, you can change how you read it by. I like the spline report, especially when I present it to clients. So do you see where that is? Spline. Once you're on the map, once you have it pull up. You have it? Built, it'll be under the, let's see, right there. Built. It's under, so those of you looking for the built, under construction, or to be built, it's under the total square feet on the right if you're using 2 columns.
Why is it coming up that way?
Oh yeah, not price per square foot, yep. Actual square, yep.
I've never
So
been
yeah,
on here before.
okay,
Where's
change
the
that to
bedroom?
2015.
Oh, this?
Yep. Oh, sorry, no, we're leaving that. Sorry, we're leaving that 2018. You did built 35 to 45. No, so garage capacity 3, at least 3. And then the other one blank.
Okay, and
Then acres, you would put 0.25 to whatever I put up there, 0.25 to 0.4. Oh, you guys know what you're doing. Okay, who else needs help? Raise your hand. Let me see.
Mine's a straight line.
Oh, I
so
need to know.
what did I miss?
That means 0. So you don't let me. Right there. That's price per square foot instead of square foot.
Oh, all right.
Someone else did that too. So.
Okay.
And you got yours is so pretty.
I did the way you like it.
See, and I love like even the black and green. You could see here where like when they hit each other, you could just see this is like you could tell it's the American dream home because these lines between black and green are really tight. It's like super high supply and demand. With this, let's see.
Whoa, hi.
Yep, I'm right there. Sorry. Yeah, it's closer. Go sit by Sarah. It's close, or Sarah can come help you.
So what report are we pulling up?
So this is the home sales graph. A while.
Oh, okay.
It's
Mine's slow too.
sorry. I keep going down. 3, 3,500, 4,500, 0.25 to 0.4.
Like, what is?
Did you do Utah County?
Yes.
Well, I'm glad we're doing this. This is stuff that you want to know these. So yeah, I used to. Yeah, so that's a great question. Back in the day if you were selling like for a just at an arm's length transaction, non-distressed property, you would exclude short sales. There haven't been enough short sales in the last couple of years for me to even worry about checking that box. So how's yours coming?
We just cleared our criteria after we were looking at it.
Try it again.
Trying it again.
Okay.
Yeah, but we have the same thing she did. But we have a friend that's possibly wanting to sell, so we were gonna maybe do her criteria.
Do hers. Okay. Cool.
So that we can kind of look at that. This is to show them someone that wants
Oh,
to sell.
yeah. Here, I'm gonna. Yeah, this shows just. I like this because it shows kind of how their home has appreciated over the last couple of years. If you know they bought 4 years ago, you can say, oh, you bought in this quarter. The average like sales price was this, or the median sales price was this. Now it's this. That represents, let's say, 20% appreciation. So we can add just rough estimate. Like for me, that's how I double check a lot of my values. Is 20% appreciation to what you paid for it should be in this range. And so it's a good way to double check. I don't even know what my password is anymore. It's all auto-populating. Oh. Nate, you know what it is. Well, they make you change it every quarter now, and it's like,
Yeah, I've got a question on Zoom. Can you hear me?
oh, I got it. I got it. Okay. Support center. No.
Is there any way you can share your screen with the Zoomers?
What do I need help with? Okay, well, I might not be able to. There we go. Okay. Okay, I can't do it looking this way either. Okay, so let's go through this. Do you want to do another one? Let's just do another one for kicks and giggles, okay? So a lot of us sell townhomes, so let's do a townhouse. Give me criteria for a pretty standard townhouse. Let's do it. Yeah, let's do one of the edge newer townhomes, right? So when were they built? Of these, they were 20. Let's say it was a home that was built in 2015. So let's do 2013 to 2018. Okay, we know what they all have.
I'm just going to show your screen. The Zoomers are saying they just want to see.
Okay, that'd be great. How are we on time?
You're at 10:50.
Okay, so we'll do this, and then we're going to jump into the actual CMA practice. Perfect. Okay, so we know that they have 2-car garages, right? 2-car garage. They all have at least 3+ bedrooms. And let's do it for, let's mix it up a little, not just Utah County. Let's do Provo Vineyard north to Lehigh. We'll talk about that part of I-15. Okay, so let's go through this together. Okay, so a lot of you on this one put the square footage in the price per square foot, okay? There were several of you that did that, so we're not gonna do that. So we'll start here, the property type, townhouse. And I can barely read this, so I'm moving up. Okay, county, we're going to Utah County, which is the number 5. City, let's have some fun here. Okay, we're gonna do all of Central and North Utah County. So we'll go American Fork, Cedar Hills. Again, we're not looking at comps, we're looking at trends, okay? So we could even include Highland. Let's take Highland out. Lehigh. We could do Linden. We can do Orem, Pleasant Grove, Provo, and then we could do Vineyard. Let's leave it there. Has everyone got that? Okay. We'll keep moving down. Okay, year built. Let's go 2013 to 2018. Total square footage. How much are most of those townhomes? We're going to do built standing as well, so we know. Yeah, they're 2,000 to 2,300. So we'll do total square feet just of 1,800 to 2,500. And we want to do the ones that have the 2-car garages. Okay, we don't need to do acreage. We don't need to do any of that. We don't need to do really, we could put 3 bedrooms there, but probably not needed. Because again, we're just looking at trends here, so we'll do that. Okay, so we'll go back to, instead of 2015, let's move this to, let's say 2017.
How many bedrooms are we doing?
Just 3, minimum of 3. Some have 4 when they do the 4th bedroom upgrade. But again, just looking at trends, so we'll do view results. 2-car garage. So we want to only compare with 2-car garages. I'm going to go to explain who got this. Okay. Now let's see what it looks like if we go back. That's 2017. Let's go back to 2014. You can go back a little bit. Okay, and sometimes, look, sometimes maybe you just want to talk about price instead of the inventory. You can get rid of, on the left, total homes sold, and you can get rid of total homes listed. So now the only line you should see is the average, the median value of property sold that match that criteria. Now, if we wanted to just look at even more trends for Utah County, you could, again, modify the search. Let's try it. I'm just walking you through this, just practice. Okay, we'll modify the search. Let's get rid of all the cities. We'll do all of Utah County. Just clear that out and then go back to view results. Okay, and again, this is going to bring in some stuff from Payson and Spanish Fork, and maybe some areas that are a lot less pricey than they are Lehigh and Vineyard and Orem. And let's do one more change, okay? We're gonna get very specific here. Let's just do Lehigh, American Fork, and let's do Saratoga Springs. And let's go back to total homes sold and total homes listed. Oh, seen it, cleared it out. The MLS is not perfect. So we'll go back to American Fork, Lehigh, and Saratoga Springs. And again, you need to double check when you're doing these reports that the MLS didn't undo something that you did, because it happens. And it depends on the day too with the MLS. It can be a moody little thing. Okay. Is this what yours look like? See, now it's being moody again. There we go. Okay, so if we know that they bought for $200,000 back in early 2015, we could see that the value, we could calculate the appreciation of what the average values were then versus right now and add that to the 200,000 just for a rough estimate of where the property should be. Okay, I love this report. I include it in listing presentations. I send it over. It's just a great way to show actual numbers and stats. Okay, the green line is the amount of properties listed. The black line is the amount of properties sold. If you could see, I mean, look at how close these are. I actually want to show you, I wonder if this will work with townhomes. But I love going back to the recession. You could see it coming, the bubble. When you get back to it, see, there weren't as many townhomes. Yeah, that's not going to match our criteria. I'm going to just clear everything out. And we're going to go back to 2000. We're just going to go back to 2000. So it's all cleared out. And I will actually just do Utah County single family homes. And this is going to show you the recession. So again, when people are asking you are we about to enter another recession, you can go back to some of these numbers as well. This one might take a while to load, but you'll see the amount of properties listing versus the amount of properties selling. And so even though the prices were going up, you could tell that there was starting to become a big imbalance with supply and demand. Okay, especially as you get in there. So look at, this is the black line. This is the amount selling. This is the green line, is the amount listing, right? And so they were listing, but there started to be, look at how much is listing here. Values are going up, but look at the amount of properties listing and how much we're selling. And then this is where you had the huge supply demand issue. And then this is what followed. And then what happened? The green and black started getting closer again. And you can see that. And this is just single family homes in Utah County. Incredible recovery though. If you take from back here in the trends and keep adding 4%, you know, we basically, we've gotten a lot higher now, but it was following normal. We're definitely recovered from that housing recession and we're back to where we probably would have been. So anyways, any questions with this this tool? Let's jump into CMA practice. Does anyone need a quick 2-minute break? Or you want to keep going? We'll keep going? Okay. There's all types of stuff here, but we're going to jump into practicing our CMA. So what information do we usually have when we first are discussing or talking with a seller about selling their home? Names and address, sometimes. Right? Sometimes just an address. Sometimes it's a name of someone that's not on title, right? So we're going to practice this in a couple different ways. I'm going to give you an address to start, okay? And you're going to tell me how you're going to get the information on this home. Okay, so for those of you, oh, we should probably stop doing screen share. Okay, so this is the first address. It's 1108 South, 950 East, number 221, Provo, 84606, I believe. So with that information, that's what you know. Where do you get information to do a CMA report? Tax data records. There's other ways, yeah, but that's one way. You could look for a previous listing by searching by address. You could just put 1108 South or 1108 and Provo and see what comes up. You could even put Southeast as the quadrant. A nice new feature about the MLS is that now when you look it up in the tax data and you find it, they'll actually they'll post all the links for when it was listed. So let's go that route. Where do you find the tax data? Search. Search and then down towards the bottom. Okay, so to do that. So this was actually the townhouse that my wife and I lived in for 6 years. We sold a couple years ago. Yep, did everyone find it in the tax? Need help? Okay, you found it? Okay. And then you'll see in the upper right, if you click on it in the upper right, it has MLS, a blue box that says MLS. And then you could look at the last 2 or 3 listings there and make sure that the numbers add up, that they're the same. You could also compare it with the county records and make sure they're the same. Just for the sake of time, we're going to assume that they are. Okay, so we'll use the most recent listing as accurate, and it should be because it was my listing, so hopefully it was. But what we're going to do now is download that as a PDF because you're going to refer to it for your CMA report. But what's one thing to notice about this listing? It's a townhouse, or is it? What does it look like? Well, it looks like a townhouse, but what is it? Yeah, it is a condo. So it's zoned as a condo. Very important. This affects financing, you know, and so it's something that you need to make sure that if you have a buyer, that they qualify for conventional financing, because sometimes these are not FHA approved. If you're listing it, you want to find out if it is FHA approved, because if it's not, that's going to affect marketability and the pool of buyers that can be interested in it. Okay, so we know it's a condo, but it looks like a townhome. So it's a very interesting situation. Okay, we also know that it is, being a condo or townhouse, that it's in a subdivision. With condos and townhomes, you always look at comps in that subdivision first. Just very straightforward there. Even if, in my opinion, even if it's 6 or 8 months old, you can just add appreciation to it, but you want to look at the most recent sold comps there. I actually haven't done this in a while, so I don't know exactly what's sold there, so we're going to find out. So have you printed the PDF? So you have that to refer to. Okay, so now let's do a CMA. I'm going to let you guys do it. No cloud. Cloud is how you present it, in my opinion. To actually estimate value, though, do the regular CMA. So there's on the top of the WFR MLS. Yep, go to CMA and create. Now here you can see populate by, what's it called? Populate form. You can populate the form right here by an MLS number. Okay, you can, but again, we're talking about staying just within the subdivision first. So there is a box in this form that is subdivision. So I would probably put City of Provo, and then what's the subdivision? Copenhagen. And you need to, check the box up top for, I mean, I'd probably look at everything over the last year. Because guess what? Your seller probably lives there, and they've been watching for sale signs up and down, and they've been hearing things from their neighbors. So you better know what happened in their neighborhood in the last year so that you can come in knowledgeable, more knowledgeable than them. So how many results? Yell it out. How many results are you seeing in the last year in Copenhagen? So has nothing sold there in the last year? Okay, so that's going to make it more fun. So if it was me, I would actually probably go back another 180 days. So let's go to 500 days back. I want to find the most recent comps there. Did you guys spell that's? Did you spell it right? It's just surprising. There's a 30 units there. Oh, you have just solds though. This should be all. So not just solds. Do all listings. Yeah, you could just create actually select all.
Well, I undid condo.
Yeah, undo condo, right? Because some people don't put condo in there because some people would still mark it as a townhome, right? Agents make that mistake all the time. And how many do you have?
I went back to full year though, 360.
Okay, hit view results. And again, remember, this is an art. This is not a science, right? Like you have to play around.
Expired.
Yeah, we're seeing 3 that were in 2019.
Sold for 225.
So we found 3 in the last 365 days. Anyone else finding 3? Yeah, so because it's legally zoned as a condo, but looks like a townhome, some agents would probably put townhome, and that's wrong. But we have to look at all comps. So you could put condo and townhome, or I would just leave it out in Copenhagen, in Provo. You might even do it by map, because guess what? Some agents are really lazy and they don't even put in subdivision, right? And that would mean you miss a comp. I lost a listing because of that. I put in the subdivision and the most recent comp didn't come up because that agent didn't put in the subdivision, and I didn't double check by doing more of a map search. And I went in and I was competing against Ned Chedester. I still remember it. And I thought and she was like, I asked feedback, why didn't I get the listing? And she's like, you didn't bring the most recent comp. And I was like, what the heck? Like, I'm usually very thorough. So I went back and looked, and that's what happened. And that was my fault because I was a little lazy and didn't double check it, because some agents don't put in the subdivision. Okay. So, and sometimes they spell it wrong, right? There's Eastgate, right? But what if they make it 2 words, East Gate? It may not come up, right? So sometimes I'll just put in East because that'll get both of them. So make a huge difference. Okay, and so this is where, taking that extra step and just double checking your work. Again, so anyone else getting 3? What are you guys getting? Okay, did you find it? Left sold. Did you do all? Let's see. Oh, and you do that whole single column. So city is.
Well, yeah, we just said that.
Take out condo, townhome completely. Okay, and keep going down. Oh, you've auto-populated this.
Yeah, we did.
Look, total square feet is only 467 to 633. It's 1,650. Yeah, so don't do anything in your form except for Copenhagen, Provo. And then all of the, right, just 3 things. All statuses, Provo and Copenhagen. Yeah. Did you get it? 3. Hit click criteria. Yep. Yep. So again, we're doing a broad search here. Hopefully all of you on Zoom are being patient with us. But this is good because the mistakes are being made. So this is good. So 3 things on your CMA search. Put Provo, Copenhagen, all statuses. So what are you getting in the last 360 days? You don't have to put 360. It just does the last year. You have 4?
I got one more. I just wanted to back up.
Yeah. 4. Okay. I think we're getting there. Okay. What those 4? What are we seeing? What are their statuses?
Sold, backup, expired, canceled.
Sold, backup, expired, canceled. And do it by, I like doing it by list price. Mm.
I've sent it.
Well, that's interesting. The one in backup, it says only 1,040 square feet. I don't think that's accurate, actually. Oh, that is so sloppy. Look at that. So look at the backup one, guys. I actually know this unit. It's the listing agent. I actually know who did on it.
2% BAC.
June Fox. Oh, yeah. So discount broker. Look, let's look at the backup one. What's the problem with the backup listing? Pull it up. No, well, yeah, that's true. Pull it up. How much square footage is on the main floor? None. It's an invisible main floor. It's a floating second floor. Okay, that's why I could tell this one was wrong, right? Because the square footage of these are usually 1,600 to 1,750 square feet, and they do have main floors. So, so it's still, because of how hot this market is, it's still. But if you pull this one up in a CMA, it's going to show that there's no square footage on the main floor, and it's going to throw off all your numbers, right? So I'd probably actually text this agent and say, hey, yeah, add 520 square feet. This is the problem with our industry sometimes, is we have to rely off, like, you need to watch this stuff because this will affect how you look. And the buyer's agent, yeah, it's just like, need to fix this. But yeah, so let's go back. We have 4 in the last year, but we had 1 that sold at the end of 2019. What did it sell for? So pull it up. What did it list for? So it sold for 225. And was it an end unit or mid unit? Mid. So it's the same as the one that we're looking up. Okay, and then the one that's under contract is actually a I know that one. It's a very, very nice unit. I believe 219. It has a fireplace and unit and a large yard. So it's different. So that one's listed at 239 and went under contract. Now, again, if you're going to list a property, you could call that agent with the one under contract and try to figure out what it's under contract for. You know, that's completely allowable. You could ask them, is it above list, below list? Oops, what happened? Okay, all right. And so, again, part of doing your research, if you're representing a seller here, that's going to list in the next couple of weeks, is, hey, try to find out what the one is under contract for. That's probably your best comp, but it is an end unit and it is different, right? I know from experience, there's only 2 in that whole complex like that one, and those are the most high in demand. Okay, but you do know one sold like it for 225 at the end of last year, or third, fourth quarter. How much of value has gone up since then? How many percent you think? Yeah, I mean, probably were in the 230s, you know, 232 to 237, maybe even 240. Okay, so that's giving you an idea of how to advise your client. And so we can go into more details with this, but I want to move on to one more now. That's a little more standard. This one will be fun. It's going to be in Eagle Mountain. Here we go. Okay. I'm going to give you an address again. 7595. And now I'm just going to let you go on this one, guys. Okay. Spend 5-10 minutes working on this, doing what you can, make some mistakes, and we'll talk about it. 7595 Bristlecone Road. Bristlecone Road in Eagle Mountain. However, this is what you have. And I can tell you that so this is one that I will probably be listing here in the next 2 weeks. The individual I've been talking to is Roberto Guzman. So that's his name and that's the address. So for those of you on Zoom, do the same thing. Roberto Guzman, 7595 Bristlecone Road in Eagle Mountain. Let's do a CMA report. Let's estimate some value here. Or is he? Yep. So he is, but he didn't come up first. So that's a good recognition. And this is the one he told me has been a rental for the last 10 years and has not been. So has it been listed before? No. So I'm going to actually give you some information. Let me find it here. Okay, basement, good question. When you are trying to estimate value and there has not been a previous listing to even go off of, at that point you should probably make sure you ask additional questions so that you understand the property. What type of a single family residence is it? What's the style? Yeah, so it's a Rambler. But it looks a little bit different, doesn't it? The square footage, it's hard to exactly tell what's going on. So I'm gonna give you some numbers here. Okay, so he let me know that there was a space finished above the garage. Okay, so yep, there's a bonus room. Yep, bonus room with I think I have here 308 square feet. And then it's 1398 and 1398. And there is 3-bed. This is unfinished. And there's 3-bed, 2-bath, 2-car garage. Who can see what the acreage is though? That's on there. .18. Yeah, and they're doing some weird, I need to learn more about what the county is doing with some of these, because that could include the garage. I think that includes the garage.
That's what I was wondering, because the whole base area is 1398, which usually is basement.
Yeah.
If I do appraisal.
That's good. Let's show them that. So on the tax data page, who's still on the tax data page? You should have multiple like windows up. On the tax data page, what's the blue button on the right say? County links. Click on that. And go to, this takes you now to the official county records. This is the MLS version. This is the official county records. Click on, you could click on the abstract to see when title was transferred. There's a lot of tools here. You can see who else is on record, but click on the appraisal info. That also helps to break down the situation of the home, right? We love it when properties have been listed 2 or 3 times before we list them, because it gives us a lot of information, right? And I actually tell agents on the team, when you're gonna send me a request to help you with the CMA, please send me all of this info, because I don't wanna spend 15 minutes having to track it down. So send this to me and then I can help you with the value estimate. But right here in the appraisal info, it gives you a lot of this broken down, right? You can see where the square footage is, bedroom, bath. It gives you at least a starting point, and then confirm it with your client. Okay, so now start working on the CMA. What's one interesting thing about Eagle Mountain? I picked this one for a reason. Eagle Mountain is almost like 2 cities. Okay, you've got City Center, and then you've got North Eagle Mountain, the ranches. All right, so if this one is, and this one's actually right in the middle, so it's very interesting. Look at it on a map. Okay, so I personally would use the map tool on this one to try to circle an area that's in the middle between Eagle Mountain, well, the ranches and Silver Lakes, and then City Center. So do you know how to use the map function? I will go back to this. So let's go CMA, create new. Okay. So if you put here, maybe I'll help because we're running out of time. And honestly, I think this should be practiced. We practice this as a team probably every month. I think this is just a skill that is just crucial. If you do Eagle Mountain and then you go view map, it'll take you right to Eagle Mountain, which is, again, a very interesting city. And I wouldn't be surprised in time if they rename City Center or Eagle Mountain, the north part of Eagle Mountain. Where is this home located? I think it's right over here. That Bristlecone Road is right there, I believe. Cannot see on this, but it's right here, right in between. And so I kind of want to pull, this mouse isn't helping, but I kind of want to pull from this area. Oh, I can't even tell. Nope, I want to go a little broader. You can do that as well. Okay, and then we hide map. And then when we're pulling a CMA, let's talk about this. What's the status that we want to choose? I mean, definitely sold, right? We're looking at sold comparables. I like doing under contract. That's up for debate. I like under contract and backup because in our CMA report, it will also keep those separate, but it kind of shows you what the properties right now are doing. We don't know the sold terms, right? But we do know that most properties are selling for at or above list price. And so we can almost assume that they're, you know, that they are. So I do a sold under contract and backup. How far back, number of days? The shorter the better, right? The shorter the better, but sometimes you have to go back further. So let's just, for the sake of it, let's do 120. Okay, when was this home built? When was, yeah, year built of this home? Does everyone see where that is? 2007. So what would you do for a range? Yeah, up and down 5 is probably pretty safe. So let's start there. How many acres was it? 0.18. So let's make sure it has at least 0.1 and go up to maybe 0.35. It'll adjust for that. We don't want to compare it to anything on a half acre. Total square feet, what was it? It's like 3,100 and change. So let's go, you know, 2,600 to 3,700. Again, I usually start broad and then narrow it down, depending on the amount of results. How many results do we want? Minimum of 3 or 4. I would say max of 10 to 12. You know, get it down to the best. I mean, 6 or 7 really good comps will produce a very accurate CMA. We know it has at least a 2-car garage. That's probably, yep, style. Let's do Rambler Ranch. Let's see where we are. We're at 6. Everyone at 6? Okay, let's view the results. That's a pretty good range. Look, they're all sold, so nothing's back up or under contract. But if you see what I'm seeing, the list prices are from 329 to 369.9, or just 369. It's a pretty tight range there. And so what we'll do, select all. Tell me if I'm going too fast for anyone. Select all, view reports, go to CMA report. Okay, another nice feature when it's been listed before is you could hit populate subject data, put in the previous, put in the previous MLS listing, and it'll auto-populate the form. It has not been listed before, so we can't do that. So now we got to manually do this. Okay, so 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. How many square feet on the second floor? I think it's 308. It's on the board, 308. And then we have 1398, and then 1398. How much of the basement is finished? None. Got that confirmed. Yep, year built, 2007. 2-car garage, 0.18 acres. Okay, so we've got that filled in and it's kind of spits out a value. Okay, but before we do that, just because the MLS puts these values on the right doesn't mean that they're actually accurate for that property. And so this is where, again, your expertise comes in, know the market. What's the value of a 3rd-car garage? How much does it cost now in new construction? Probably about 15,000, 12 to 15. How much did it cost back then? Probably like 7 to 10. So I generally give the value of a 3rd-car garage at this age of a home to $8,000 to $10,000. Okay, so let's just adjust this to 8,000. This has not changed since I've been on the MLS. They give the value of an acre of $43,000. When I do this in Highland or certain areas where the value of land's very high, I have this as high as $150,000 to $200,000. Pretty standard of $100,000 in most areas. I'm going to change this to $50,000, and this number it keeps going up the more we run out of space, right? So I'm going to put the value here of just 80,000. And this is how it adjusts it. Year built, $500 is the standard amount. When it's a super old home, I narrow this down because honestly, who cares if it's a 1923 or a 1932? Right? It really doesn't create that much of a difference in value because of the year built. But is there a big difference in year built between a 2012 and a 2018? Right? A lot more. And so I'd increase it there. So here on year built, I'm going to increase this a little bit to 1,000. And I mean, let's talk about this. This home is now 13, 14 years old. What maintenance is now probably things that we need to be aware of? How long do most roofs last? 20 to 30, so it's probably okay. But what about water heaters? They're 8 to 12, right? So that, if it hasn't been replaced, we know it's towards the end of its life, okay? What about AC? How long do ACs last? They're like 10 to 15. Some are 5 or 6. And you know, our inspector, we use Jared Finn with Pillar to Post. He often talks about like, stuff 20 years ago were built way better and they lasted longer. A lot of this newer stuff seems to die sooner as they've tried to get costs down. But furnace, how long do furnaces last? You know, they're 15 to 25 depending. You know, appliances, what's it called? In your sink, the disposal, thank you. Your disposal, how long do those last? Are they anywhere 5 to 10? Dishwasher, you know, generally 5 to 10. You know, so those are things to keep in mind as you're like giving the value. Like, what have you done in the last couple of years? What maintenance have you done? Because if not, things are past due or probably coming up. So anyway, so we see right here we have all sold comps, which is nice. If there were backups or under contracts, they would also be listed here separately, so you could use that. And honestly, what we've seen a lot lately with under contracts, if we have some here, they're higher than the sold ones because values are going up. Okay, but we see here of 345, and that's the average of all 6. But let's look at the adjusted value. What do we see here? 335, 337, 349, 350, 343, 355. That is an awesome range. That's a very, very tight, narrow range for values. At the low end, we have 335, and at the high end, we have 355. That perfectly falls into 345, give or take 10 grand. Now, without seeing the home, I would probably extend that a little to be 345, give or take 15 or 20. right? That's just on average. And then when I'd go see the home, knowing that it's in poor condition, his is actually probably so bad, if we were to list it as is, that it would probably be closer to 325 or 320. Okay, but we're talking about putting some work in to get it back up. But this is how you develop a range, is with these adjusted values. And then you could go into even more detail. Okay, this one was the highest one. Let's look at it. What was different about this one? Okay, and you can go through the pictures. You can go through the remarks. It could say completely remodeled kitchen and master bath. Okay, and it could say, you know, like backs into open field with all this. You want to, why did this one go for more? And you could also look at when it sold. You know, this one sold in June, so not that long ago. Then you can go compare it to the one that sold for the least amount. You know, again, this one sold back in June around the same time, and you can check out, why did this one sell for less? What was the difference? I don't have the time to work you through this. Do you know what's interesting on some of these? You'll see is one offered 3% and sold for more, and one offered 2% and sold for and had a less. And you could bring that to your seller and say, look at these ones that were offering 1.5% or 2% or sold with the discount broker. Their adjusted value was less. And the ones that sold with a great agent with higher listing agent commission or with a higher BAC, well, guess what? It attracted more buyers, agents who wanted to sell your home, and it went for more, and they made more money. Okay, and sometimes that's the sole difference. I had a seller, this has happened several times over the years. They contacted me and they're like, my property just won't sell, and I can't figure out why. And again, when someone contacts you and they have their property listed, you can talk to them. And so I'll pull up their listing. And I'll be like, oh, did you know that you were only offering 2% BAC? And then they're like, what the heck? You know, I signed 6%. And their agent just snuck in 2% BAC to try to get 4%. Okay, I've had that happen several times. Okay, and so that's something you can look at as you're analyzing all of this to try to advise your client. You know, and you go through the pictures and compare it. And then when you sit down with your client, you're like, let's look at these. Okay, and then this is a great way. This is where you do your research. Your cloud CMA, though, is where you present it. It puts this all together with all the photos, the comps, the maps. It makes it look like you did a whole lot of work, but it did it all for you. And our team is actually going to be focusing a lot on cloud CMAs this month to really perfect them and to fill out all the information on them. But it's a really neat tool. So what is our time? Okay. I can go on for another couple hours. Any questions before we wrap up? Any ahas? I want to hear ahas. What 1 or 2, 3 things you learned that you can take with you? Let's give her a mic real quick.
Okay. Is it
There you
working? Yeah. So my mom is an agent at another brokerage, and I watched her do a CMA, and she didn't do any, like her broker didn't tell her to do anything in the MLS, and just seeing it done in the MLS and then what you're saying to then put it into the cloud CMA makes so much more sense, because I think you're able to pull better comps off of the MLS rather than just pulling everything through the cloud CMA. So I didn't know you could do this on the MLS, so that was cool.
Yeah, and you could take these 6 MLS numbers that we have on ours and just actually input them into the cloud CMA. I haven't played around enough with the cloud CMA we did a little bit yesterday, but it doesn't seem like it is as proficient at helping you estimate value. It's more to present.
It's not. I've only watched her one time. And
awesome.
Much more.
Yes, they are. And also the boards, they offer different classes on CMAs and the cloud CMA and these MLS tools. Highly recommend you take them. Okay, like they're free classes. I tell this to all my team members: you are your business, right? Like you are the advisor. You're like an attorney that represents someone. You're only as good as what you know how to do. You should be taking these classes every week, if not every month. You know, if you can, minimum every month. Okay, what other aha moments? Let's pass the mic around. Something that you learned. I mean, I saw one thing. Don't use price per square foot as square footage, right? What else? I know you guys are all playing on your computers with the CMAs. Krista, anything you took away?
Well, we've done this before, and maybe I wasn't paying attention, but when you're going to the bottom and just showing like what's the adjusted values on each of the comparables, like using that as the range of value. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
That wasn't a high. I was like, oh, that's where you can, because usually I'm like looking at, okay, what did they sell for? So I'm just looking at what it sold for in comparison to, you know, the actives or competition, but looking at I don't think I've ever paid attention to what the adjusted values are on the comparables.
And I think that's a great aha, because that is what I rely on more than anything, is the adjusted values. And again, so I should probably bring up, you can look at these adjusted values, and maybe one sold, like the adjusted value is like 20% above all the others. It's this outlier, and you'll go look at it and try to figure out why. And maybe there's something about it that just makes it an outlier that just doesn't fit. So you're going to want to remove that from your CMA, because it'll affect your adjusted value, and it'll make it'll make you inaccurate. So I always look for outliers low and outliers high and remove them if they shouldn't be there. Because right, you get one that's like a certified meth house and needs all this work, and that's how they're advertising it. That shouldn't be in your CMA report unless you also are doing a meth house. Then that's your best comp. So yeah, any other ahas? You guys have been, oh, right here. Question, okay.
So on the CMA report. Hello? On this CMA report, so you've got the subject property, and then you've got these comps. So I'm looking one up for a friend. It said the sold price was $365, and then on the number on the bottom says $354. What does that mean exactly? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so this is when you compare the subject property to this comp. That is the adjusted value. It's the same thing that an appraiser does. You know, they take a sold property, because no two properties are the same, right? So it takes into account the differences in square footage, your built, garage, acreage, all that. And so based on this property that's sold, now comparing it to your property with all our adjustments, this is now the estimated value for your property. So these numbers down here are the adjusted value. So those are the sold comps, and this is the adjusted value based on the differences in criteria. That's what this is. So this is, yeah, so like this one right here, you can see it has more square footage. So it doesn't have this bonus room. So it gives a value now of $12,000 more for that bonus room, a finished bonus room of 300 square feet. But this one has more square footage on each floor. So it's taking away $7,000 there and $1,800 there. Again, adjusting the value for the differences in the properties. And then through all that, you know, it's only 0.15 acres and this one's 0.18. So that gives this one $2,400 more value based on what we're setting that as. And so when it does all of that, based on, you know, it takes that price up here, makes these adjustments, and then there's the new value. Okay, and then this number is an average of all those values. But what I like to do is look at these to get a range. And it's actually, this one's like perfect, because you have 345 here is the adjusted value. The low one is 335. The high one is 355. That's when I do CMAs and see this, I can feel very confident that we're in that range. You know, but then again, most of these homes I think are in good condition. So the value range is very tight. I know my client's home is not in good condition. Okay, so that would put it probably below the low on that range. Yeah.
So I'm having a hard time reading that, and I don't have it pulled up. So what does it say the adjusted price is?
So for the overall,
subject?
It's 345.
And then the range was what?
335 to 350. 335 to 355. So I would say, I tell my client 345, give or take 10,000 in good condition. You know, some I'll get, let's say this was like 320 to like 380. You know, I could tell them it's 350, give or take 30,000 depending on condition. And then when I go see the home, I'll tell them I'll narrow it down. But once I see it and can go back and do more research.
So based on the housing shortage, it's a seller's market. Would you list that? I mean, you would list that high, right?
So this is step one. I wish I had more time. Step two is the next thing I'd pull up is active and under contract properties within that market. And that's what I call competitive listings. I would just do a quick search, do active under contract between, let's say, 325 and 375. See, like if their market were to hit today, what would it be competing against? And based on that, you can like adjust that up or down or however it may be. If I was just using this though, yes, I'd probably list it 5 or 10 grand higher, because I'd probably pull, I mean, you could do this very quick. You do search, quick. And if anyone needs to go, you can go. I'll just go a little long here. So we have, so I would take out sold and do active. I mean, there's a few things I do differently. Again, this is a broad search. So I'm trying to do what's competitive. I'm getting rid of Rambler Ranch too, right? Because some people don't care. Go to 2018. We're in, so I have a map already. Active backup under contract. Let's see if there's anything else I need to do. I think that's good for right now, just for the sake of this. So if you see there's 22 there, if I take out active, there's 21. There's one active property out of 22. So, and I bring this report to my client. So if you view results, see, I mean, this is, you see stuff like this. There's a couple backups, there's one active. So I would do a brief report and I'd print this off and bring it to my client and show them like, your market's hot. Like, let's be a little, and the nice thing about all these under contracts, guess what? A lot of them are going to close and give better comparables for the appraisal. You know, so here's that report, and you could just show them, and it shows square footage as well. We know that their square footage is 31 and change. So you could start going to find some that are close. You know, it's crazy. There's none there, like 32, and it's at 387.5. But again, I know their neighborhood isn't as nice as a lot of these. It's almost city center, and I know it was a rental. But it was funny because like 3 or 4 months ago when we were talking about it, it was like, we're gonna have to list this thing at 300 because it's pretty trash. Now I'm telling them, I think we could list this at 325 without doing a thing and still be fine. In 2 more weeks when we list it, I might say 330 or 335. You know, and as people are more forgiving of condition now because there is one active property, and let's find it. Yeah, that's. Yeah, I mean, 20. Seeing this is much newer, so it's not really a competitive listing. It's you know, newer and all that. But the only active listing has been there for 1 day. You know, it's 3-car garage as well. It'll be under contract in 2 days. So this is the stuff that I like. I spend a lot of time doing research, and because I've been doing it for a long time, I could probably do it all within an hour for most properties. But because I could get really fast at this, and this is what I do for the team. It's what I love to do. But I mean, especially when you're newer, this should be 3-4 hours, like a half day of research to give yourself the best chance at getting it, and so you look good to your client. So, but they do teach classes like this at, you know, the board, here at the office. They do this every month, right? Go learn from other agents how they do their CMAs.
I think we're just going to have you start teaching this every month, Jared. You guys, can we give him a hand? Like, seriously? That was, luckily we have this recorded too, so I'm going to go back and like, it's just, that was awesome.
Oh, glad you liked it.
Way in-depth
We
information.
need another 2 hours.
There's a way more to this, and Sam, we need to get your mom over here, and yeah. Well, we'll talk to her, but there's way more to this, as Jared, than we think, and there's just so much information, great information that if we're not utilizing, we're losing out on possibly, you know, doing our best job as an agent. Yeah. So no, I thought this was so in-depth and awesome. Thank you, Jared.
You're welcome.
You guys have just learned. Yeah, clap again.
No.
That was awesome. And to learn from a mega agent like Jared, like, just a great opportunity. So like I said, we have this recorded. So if you have questions, we can go back and we'll be posting this on our website. So you can, because there was so much information, especially for this class, you can just go back and watch that again. And we had 20 people between in person and on Zoom. So that was awesome. Thank you so much. So you guys, and Jared is always open to answering questions. If you guys ever have questions for him, Nate, yeah, just let us know. We're here to help you guys. So thank you. So Friday, another Ignite, 9:30 a.m. Please come. It's going to be awesome. And Angie Fisher's teaching. Angie Fisher has a team. She's one of our top agents. I love her story and her background. Just where she's come from. She was a manager at Village Inn for many years, working 12, 14-hour days, and is now one of our top agents, and I love her story. And she's just a wealth of knowledge as well. So please come Friday at 9:30. So we'll see you guys. Have a great day.